And welcome, folks, to the talk show, Let the Truth Be Told. I'm your host, Pastor David. And, folks, we got a great show. We're going to have the women on the panel today, and we're going to discuss the 300,000 women who lost their job, Black women who lost their job from April up until now. And also the Living and Driving While Black Foundation has taken a case out of Panama, Florida, where two women were discriminated against and lost their jobs. One supported the other, and she was retaliated for telling the truth, lost her position. So if you ain't got nothing to do, call your friends and let them know. You're listening to Let the Truth Be Told Radio. I'm your host, Pastor. Now come on in. Thank you. And welcome, thank you. And welcome to the talk show, Let the Truth Be Told. I'm your host, Pastor David. But first, let me give all praises to God and my Lord and Savior, Yahudah, for having me this morning and waking me up. Folks, we had a great show last night, and I want you to continue to share it around to our new station, letthetruthbetold.lycom.com. Today, we got another great story. We're going to talk a little bit about the 300,000 Black women who were terminated or laid off and how DEI played a role in that. But first, we're going to talk about two women who worked at the Navy agency down in Panama, Florida. These were ladies who were well-educated, a lot of accolades, and they were fired from their job because of discrimination. And I think that that's something that people don't really take a look at anymore. Discrimination is alive and well, especially in the federal government. And so in saying that, folks, I want to get my panel in. We got an all-lady panel today, y'all. It's going to be off the chain. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Pastor, how you doing?
I'm here now. Everybody's in?
Yep.
Yes.
Folks, like I was saying during my monologue, we have Miss Patricia Dowdell and Miss Debbie Carnell. They worked for the United States Navy in Panama, Florida. This case came to us from Miss Dowdell. She reached out to our office regarding what happened to her. She is a retired civilian. Got all sorts of accolades. I mean, the governor lowered the flag when she retired, and she went for another position down in Florida, and it just turned bad. And we have Miss Debbie Carnell, who her coworker, who was there, who supported her. And this is what I hate about the federal government when it comes to dealing with discrimination. Miss Deb did her job, got accolades as well. But yet, once she told the truth about what happened to Miss Patricia, in retaliation, the federal government fired her from a position that she had no idea that being truthful on the job would happen. And so I want to get these ladies in here. Good afternoon, ladies. How are you?
Oh, just fine. How are you?
I'm good. Now, let's start with Miss Patricia. Miss Patricia, let's talk a little bit about, because when you contacted our office, when I talked to you, I could feel the the stress and all the pain of losing this job. But what I felt the most was the discrimination part. Talk about what they did to you that led up to you walking off this position.
Yes, yes. And first of all, I wanted to start and provide some clarification. I was not fired or terminated. I decided to resign from my position.
Okay.
And prior to accepting the position in Panama City Beach, I had retired from the federal government. I had worked 30 plus years for the Department of Defense, with the Army, the Air Force, and this time it was with the Navy. So I retired out of Fort Gillem, Georgia in 2017 and decided to go back to work last year. So when I went back to work, I took a job that was not commensurate with, with what I had done before, but I just basically wanted to get back into the system and serve the military in whatever capacity I could do. So I went there, and upon entry, the environment became very toxic, and I didn't quite know what was going on. And it was interesting because on my first day of work, I was introduced to the staff. I was the only African American in the organization, the only African American in the entire building. And after I had my initial introduction with the staff, Ms. Carnell, later told me, later had a conversation about what one of my coworkers said about me. So Deb, I don't know if you want to join in and talk about
Yeah,
what you heard on that
yeah.
first meeting that I had.
Well, I was just impressed with Patricia, very intelligent, strong woman. And as she was just explaining, her background and what all she's done and how she could be a wonderful asset to the Navy down there. When Patricia was through talking with us and introducing herself, I turned around and looked at one of my coworkers and I said, I love her. She's going to be wonderful on the team. And she gave me a funny look and said, and stated, I hope she's not going to be like the other one. I didn't know what that meant at the time, but realizing later that the other one was a Black lady that she was replacing her position with.
So you're saying that this other coworker who said the other one, and the other one means the other Black lady that came to work before Miss Dowdell, and talk a little bit about what happened to her.
Well, I've only met her when I was hired. She was leaving, so she was packing up and moving out. So I didn't really get to know her too much. But she was transferring to a base, an Air Force base, and doing the same kind of work. I know she when she was leaving, I told her, I said, well, it was good to meet you. I wish you the best. And she did state, I'm excited about getting out of here.
Wow. But Miss Dowdell, now you were able to contact the other one.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about some of the things that you went through, and then we'll talk about your witnesses that stepped up to the plate like Ms. Carnell did. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, the other one was another African American female, and I spoke with her, and she left. She left based on this pretty much the same thing that I resigned from. We both had similar incidents: the toxicity, the hostile work environment there. And while I was there, all this kind of started around January, February, when the federal cuts were launched, the Doge cuts were launched. And at that time, people were considering about taking the DRP, the Deferred Retirement Plan. So my supervisor, who was a GS-13 at that time, decided to take the Deferred Retirement Plan a program thing. So I was the only person that on staff that was qualified at the time for that position because I had held it several times before. So even though I was currently in a lower ranking position, I had the director's position several times and had retired from that position. So it was just fine until I announced that, hey, since the boss is retiring, you know what, I think I might apply for that job. I would like to try it, getting that position. Oh my goodness. Once I said that I was interested in the position, that's when everything just completely changed in the environment. All of a sudden, I became the target. it was like, oh no, we cannot let her be our supervisor. We've got to do whatever we can do to sabotage and undermine any effort she has at any kind of success with that. So I remember one time I went in to launch a best practice for the Navy. And I went in there and spoke to the commander and had a briefing there. And they said, you know what, this is a fantastic idea. We want you to come back. And there's a possibility that we may look at this as a best practice for other parts of the Navy. So came back to my other coworkers. And again, the same thing, like, oh no, we cannot let her shine. We cannot let her be our supervisor. So any little thing I would do, they would try to sabotage it and try to make me look less professional, because at that point I became competition. It was okay as long as I was sitting in a job that was lower than theirs. But once I expressed that I wanted a position that that was the director's position, all of a sudden it's like, no, we've got to deal with her. So at one point, the person that was the most antagonistic, one day she walked down the hallway and she pointed in my office and she says, you see her? She needs to get out of here. She needs to just get out of here. And she also made a comment to Miss Deb that she didn't understand why, but she just never liked Black people. She just never got along with them. So here I am coming in there, and I'm getting ready to apply for the supervisor's position. So all this toxicity in the work environment just compounded. And there was an investigation that came in, and this person was relieved for several things. One of them was based on bullying in the office and the racial attacks that she had against me. But one of the things I learned in this was that it's never just one person. There's usually more than just one person in the work environment that stimulates all of that gets all that going. So even though she left, and went her way, there were still other aspects of people in the office that continued and perpetrated that same type of toxic work environment in that workplace. So it was like every day that I came to work, I felt that they were trying to intimidate me. I would come in the office and they would always just make sure that their political views were first and foremost. I never expressed mine. In the federal workplace with the Hatch Act, you have to be very careful about expressing your political opinions in the government work environment. But they felt free to do so in that environment. So just feeling constantly like on edge. So one day, I'm actually from Atlanta, Georgia. So I came to Atlanta one weekend. I took some time off from work and went to my office. And I was there with Miss Debbie Carnell and two of my other coworkers. And we're there, and just opening up my office door while they're all standing right there. Open up my door and my office is completely trashed. There's someone had knocked over my coffee machine. Coffee granules were all over the room. I had three different awards that I had gotten from the federal government. I received the Lieutenant Colonel Aide de Camp from the state of Georgia, from previous former Governor Nathan Deal. That was on the floor. I had an achievement medal, commander's award. All those awards were on the floor. I had some commander's coins that were given to me by general officers. Those were on the floor. And so when I went there, I just kind of froze. At that time, I didn't really know what to do. I was like, okay, so who is it that dislikes me enough to do this? And what have I done? Because I tried to be gracious and nice to everyone. And I'm here to serve sailors and their families. That's my job. That's my focus. And just sitting there, I just kind of froze. And at the time, I kind of paused about whether or not I should report it. And I remember Miss Carnell saying, Patricia, no, you got to call the Naval Police and get them out here and do a report. So they came into my office. And the first thing the Navy police said to me was, oh, do you think that, and he called a name, do you think that this person did this to your office? So, on any federal installation, you have cameras. You have access as to who's going in and out of these federal buildings. But no one from my chain of command, no one came and said, we're sorry this happened to you. Can we provide any more security? And I also want to mention too that there was no key control in the building. So in any government facility, it's imperative that you have key control. So in that particular office, anybody that came in there had access to the key box. Yeah. We all had access to each other's offices. So no one, to this day, I don't know who did it, but at that time, I became very uncomfortable coming to work. just simple things like, if you have a cup of coffee and, you want to put it on your desk. Okay, if someone was bold enough to break into my office and trash it and throw all my stuff on the floor, should I put a cup of coffee on the desk and go to the bathroom? So these are the type of things that
Mhm.
really
Wow.
cause a lot of stress for me. And there was one particular incident that I remember when all of this happened, all this stress happened. I remember my blood pressure rose to like 200 over 114. And I remember calling Miss Carnell and saying to her, Deb, look, I'm on the phone. Hang on the phone with me, because if something happens to me, I at least want to have someone that can call 911.
Right.
So it was just a lot of intense
Yeah.
stress and pressure, um, basically for someone just coming in wanting to do a job. Now, again, I wanted to state that, I came into this position, with over 30 years experience in Air Force, Army, with a master's degree in counseling and human relations. And I still went through all of that type of stress. So it wasn't a matter of qualifications. It was a matter of, we just don't want someone that looks like you in this position, period.
Wow.
You
So
know,
it was
Yeah.
like walking into a prison every day. And finally, and by me being retired, I was like, okay, I thought that this would be a great job for me to just get back and connect again, because I really missed that portion of connecting with the military. But after my experience, it's really kind of left, for me, it's like a PTSD event, because it's hard for me. Like, I can talk about it now, but it was hard for me the first few months with even talking about it without crying. I just couldn't even mention it. I know I would mention it to Deb and other people, and I would just immediately have an emotional response,
Yeah.
because I had never been treated quite like that. Now, I've had some experiences working for the federal government those 3 decades, but this one really was the one in Florida that just catapulted into something that was unrecognizable
Yeah.
that
Can I
I
ask
went
a
through.
question
It was
or two?
awful.
Since the lady that was the initial queen bee of the Mean Girl clique inside of the
Yes.
office, since she left and she pretty much resigned, you can't go after her. So because she don't
Yes.
work there anymore. So what steps do you take? Is there a chain of command? Because I know their chain of command. Do you go to the EEOC because it is a workplace issue, or is there something or inside of the government that you might can be compensated because of you had to deal with this in two separate offices, and it doesn't seem like your superiors took it for real and you pretty much got the heavy end of it. So what are some steps that you're taking right now?
Yes. What I did is I filed an official EEO complaint with
Mhm.
with the Navy, and that's an ongoing process. And even though the particular person resigned from the federal government, she was mentoring other people that were in the office. In other words, she had other people that were in and out of the office who sympathized and empathized with her position. So even though she was removed, there were others that were still there that felt the same way.
And
Mhm.
also, if you don't mind, Patricia, me mentioning this, when Patricia had left, they let this individual come back on base during the middle of the day while all of us were working. She ripped things out of the wall. This is government property, left holes in the wall, went through there like very angry. Um, I felt uncomfortable. I stayed in my office and closed the door, me and another coworker. So, why they allowed her to come back in there, I have no idea. But, that was one thing after Patricia had left. They let her come back in there and rip stuff off walls.
Did anybody take her badge? Was she walked out by a superior? Did they notify them at the gate? Because you just don't get on base if they've been
You
relinquished
know,
or even retired. So
That's a good
somebody higher
that's a
up.
good question. She didn't even come in there with someone escorting her in there.
So no one even notified that the gate that, she's no longer working for the facility, even if she did resign. So I'm going to ask you this, because this sounds like an inside job, but she knew a lot of people up high.
Yes,
That's what I was
yes,
gonna say.
absolutely. Yes,
New
that's,
people.
She had
yes,
a buddy system on the inside,
yes,
and she sounded like
yes,
the one that ran the actual place. So
yes.
yeah.
Spot on, Lucretia, spot on. That's exactly what happened.
Yes.
Doc, what
I do have a
else?
question. Was this actually filed with JAG at all? Did JAG get
No,
involved?
well, okay. Well,
I don't
while all this was going on, there was a commander's inquiry, like a 15-6 inquiry, where they had a quote outside person to come in and conduct an investigation. So that person talked to each one of us individually, and then they made a recommendation to the commander. And the commander, whenever they make those kind of decisions, of course, they run it through their JAG office for concurrence.
Okay.
So once they ran it through the JAG office, I guess it was recommended that the person was forced to either resign or be terminated.
Right.
Uh,
Okay, because I mean, this can become a civil matter as well.
Yeah,
It
and let,
already
let
is.
You
me
guys are
share,
civilians.
let me share this little piece too. So after Patricia had left, because me and another coworker got very close with Patricia. I felt like I needed to have her back, protect her. Anyway, me and the other coworker by the XO was served with a what's it called?
Letter of reprimand.
Yes, and he
Really?
accused us of during the time that we were investigated, in the investigator's note, that we stated, now both of us stated that Patricia leaned left. That would have never come out of my mouth, for one. She's a friend of
Wow.
mine. And the other coworker was accused of the same thing. We were been reprimanded for 2 years because of that. And
It's
he
just
was
not
That has
but no,
nothing
that's
to
all
do
covered
with your
in
job. And like you
exactly.
guid before the Hatch Act, I'm like, what are we
exactly.
talking about?
And I felt so bad. To this day, I feel awful that Deb Carnell and my other coworker both received letters of reprimand based on something that the command thought that I did. And in addition, Miss Deb, who was in a GS-11 position, was also terminated.
Yes, that's what
Well,
I
they had
wanted
to
to
put
get
Oh.
into.
something in your jacket. I mean, they got to put something in your jacket. You got all these damn awards. You're coming down here and you're finna sit here and set stuff on fire. And she has never been reprimanded. They went through the chain of command and said, you know what? You're going to have to do something in order to make you. They just padded your jacket. Pretty much what they did.
So basically, both of them got letters of reprimand, and then when I filed an EEO complaint, the EEO officer came in and she conducted her investigation and she interviewed a Deb. Almost immediately after Deb was interviewed, she got called in and was terminated from her GS-11 position working for the federal government.
A
It
week
was
later.
now it's also important that the point is brought up that prior to her termination notice, she had been called in and given a good performance appraisal with a performance award of, what was it, Deb? Almost 3,000,
Almost
2,600, something like that.
$3,000. It was 2,686 is what I got.
And
And
so
the
this,
XO himself, now this was back in July. He shook my hand and said, "Good job. You've done a good job." So the day that he fired me, he called me into the conference room. He leaned forward, very intimidating, leaned forward, looked at me and said, "I'm letting you go. Do you have any questions?" And I said, "Yes, I do. Why?" And he said, "Because you didn't meet my, what was the word, Patricia? I can't think.
expectations.
Yeah, you don't meet my expectations."
3.5 weeks after giving you a performance award and a good performance appraisal and telling you that you did a good job.
Yeah.
They're trying to clean up their
Yes,
tracks.
yes.
Got
When
They're trying to tie up loose ends.
yes, when Miss Deb contacted us, I mean Miss Patricia and them, and I talked to Miss Deb, and we took a look at the complaint. This was just sheer retaliation because of the fact that Miss Deb supported Patricia and all the things that she said that were true. And so when we looked at it, and I said to my attorney, hey man, we need to take this case. These ladies have been wrongfully terminated. They created a hostile work environment. When Miss Deb supported Miss Patricia, they in turn retaliated and terminated her. The fact of the matter that she had all these accolades and was awarded, and both of these women were well qualified and beyond, who have been decorated by the other agencies. How could she just go so bad in less than 30 days and just got a huge award and a
Yeah.
performance? Doc?
Wow.
Well,
I mean,
I've got a disability. So I'm visually impaired. So I was diagnosed in my 20s when me and my sisters were doing photographs, modeling photographs, and the photographer he said, turn to the side and look at me. And I absolutely could not do it. I could not shift my eyes. And I knew something seriously was wrong. But I didn't give up. I knew that God was going to be with me and he was going to walk with me. And I went to school. I was thinking, I'm not going to let this defeat me. I'm going to be the best I can and serve God in whatever direction he wants to lead me to. So I found myself out in Portland, Oregon. I worked downtown as a therapist for 4 years. And it was during the time during, the riots. It was back in 2022. And I walked the streets trying to get the homeless, get them into housing, helping people with heroin addiction. I was on a mission and I wasn't going to let my disability stop me. And when I decided to come back home to the South, because my mom was having mini strokes, I needed to be back here with her, and got into the Navy, which I worked very hard to get that position. And then at first I thought he's getting rid of me because of my disability, because he did state to me, the XO, you need to work on your technology skills. And then that's when I sent him a letter that I was working through vocational rehabilitation to get the resources that I need. At that point, I was just trying to save my job and, just save my position. But I really knew deep down that this was retaliation.
Well, I wanna talk a little bit about the EEOC. And when I got involved, Miss Patricia called me and we did a conference with the supposedly EEOC person. See, I have sued companies through my foundation. I have sued the EEOC because the EEOC is another governmental agency. And in cases like this, they're going to act like they're going to support and help those who are in need. But most of the time, if they are being paid by the agency, they're going to bring division amongst you so that they can try to discourage you and get out of this lawsuit, because they are at a discrimination lawsuit that is going to probably roll over pretty big for the fact that of how they did it and what they did to these women, and the fact that they basically just preyed on them after they didn't want them there. So we did get it, but we had a phone call, and this is what really made me get really pissed off, was when Miss Patricia and I was talking about the case. She added me as a support person to the phone with this EEOC person. And I had been telling her that she had to be careful with EEOC because EEOC, especially with this XO, he had a lot of power. So the girl that was the girl that was working at his office, he was paying, and so she quite had not fulfilled the requirements like she should, because it seemed like she was holding out on a lot of stuff. And so when we had the phone conversation, now this is another Black woman. We had the conversation, a DEI hire, that's what I'm gonna say. That when I posed questions to her regarding the process, she was unable to tell me. Her mission was to keep Miss Patricia to a place where she lied. She says, well, your complaint itself has some situations, problems with your witnesses, right? And so Miss Patricia was like, well, what's going on? Then she said, well, what Miss Deb told us and what the other guy said did not support what you said happened. And so her mission was to try, and she kept trying to keep it in the hands of the EEOC, because I'm saying to her, listen, the process is going to be like this. I'm explaining to you how it should go. And what about the right to sue letter? We can get that and just get it out of your hair, right? She didn't want that. She kept trying to tell her, you need to stay into the Navy system, and then we'll do mediation, and then we'll get JAG involved and all of that. And I was like, no, we're not going to do that, because this agency is already, you could see the nepotism and how they were
You don't
treating.
trust it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was really taken back that, and I know it's other Black people that do this gatekeeping crap. It has happened on many jobs that I've known.
Are you going to keep it with the EEOC, or are you going to leave it with JAG? How are the future aspects? I mean, because if you're going to sue them, you're going to have to get that right to sue letter. And if you are going to sue the Navy, are you going to keep it within the Navy code system?
We talked about getting the right to sue letter. And then we're going to go through EEOC. We're not going to do they said the other option was Secretary of the Navy, and we're not going to go through the Navy system.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to get the letter for both of Miss Debbie and Miss Patricia, and then we're going to file in federal court on their behalf. The hostile work environment, all the stuff with the trashing the office, intimidating. And she's a senior, so it's a lot of little charges we're gonna put in there for both of them, so that they can be made whole again. And this is what I'm saying. Out of all the adversities that women go through, and I'm gonna play a clip in a minute about the 300 some thousand women who have been let go since April. I feel a couple of ways about it. And I know that a lot of times, I worked for the federal government for 15 years. I went through an actual case of not being promoted, being the most qualified person, and a barmaid beat me out for a 9, 11, 12 position. And I was the most qualified person. And so I ended up, they created such a hostile work environment every day for me. One day I just woke up and told my wife, I'm quitting today. I can't take this no more. So I understand what she went through, and the hate and all the games they're playing. You walking around on eggshell. So this is sort of personal for me too, because I've seen this type of attitude with the United States Army as a contracting officer. And so I immediately took this case to get them some relief. But we're going to stand on it, and we're going to hold them accountable for what they did for both these women. Miss Deb is the most blatant, because her case actually confirms Miss Patricia's case, because once she told the truth about they did all these horrible things, then they retaliated and fired her and put her out on the streets. It's all intimidation. It's all fear. And I know both of them are going to get some resolve in it, but Miss Debbie probably can get her job back to the union, but we still going to represent her and make sure we get justice. Now, Doc, you've been pretty quiet. I know you thinking.
Well, I mean, just as a paralegal, I kind of have to take it all in and get the facts. But, it is better to, pursue this outside of the military, only because if you were to go through JAG, things might mysteriously come up missing. Right.
Yes.
And there might mysteriously, the evidence will be wiped away, the camera footage, just all of the things that they have to be held to an account from an outside source, they can manipulate from the inside, which is very sad, because I do appreciate our military. But, these isolated incidents that happen like this, they're starting to happen more often than not. And I think that goes back to leadership. Right. Yes. Pete Hegseth, you don't answer for this directly, but these are individuals in the chain of command that need to be dealt with.
Absolutely. Because the part about the key control, now they're saying that, that key box has always been locked. No, it hasn't. There's several witnesses that, but you know what? But at this point, where those people come forward and say that that box was never locked, now everybody's changing their story.
Yeah.
Well,
And there'll be conflicting evidence.
Absolutely. I don't think your commander or the person that was over that office don't want his senior commanders to know that he didn't have that office on lockdown or knew what was going on in the office. So what he decided to do is go ahead and make the problem go away, not put her in jail, not press charges for destruction of property or anything. Just she quit. It's over and said and done. Why you got an attitude? She's no longer here. And now I got to hear it from my senior officers to make it disappear. So I'm just going to make y'all disappear, and that's what exactly what happened.
You hit it, Lucretia. That's the attitude that the Army has, because they can make the rules up as they choose to do so, different directives when they need to. And so it is a place of straight discrimination, nepotism, and all the things that happen in the private sector happen in the federal government, even though they say they're not supposed to happen. They happen on a more regular basis than the private organizations. Now, and the Living and Driving While Black Foundation did take this case. This was a case that we've already taken. We've spoken with attorneys about representing them. We're supporting them through the process so that we can, get justice and get them to be made whole. These type of things happen all the time, and just like with Miss Patricia, she walked away out of fear, distress, and all of that. And usually people don't fight back in these kind of positions because they feel the Navy, the Army are so huge and they can't be held accountable. But that's not true. And we took this case and we're going to make sure that they be made whole and that the Navy is held accountable to the standard that they say that they are, who's supposed to be leading examples for other companies throughout in the private sector, but they're just as bad as people that work in the private sector.
Right. And hopefully this will create like a waterfall where other people have gone through what you've gone through, but they just didn't have the resources to actually pursue litigation.
With all of your accolades and how long you've been in the military and other branches, they didn't touch your pension, did they?
No, I already had a pension. Oh my goodness. I'm so glad you brought that up, Lucretia, because that was another bone of contention with them. It was like, why is she here? She's already getting a retirement check. She must be double dipping because I retired as a GS employee. The highest rank I got was 13. So I retired as a GS, but I went back as a non-appropriated employee. So it was there's a lot of resentment that, okay, she's working toward. No, I wasn't trying to retire. It was Panama City Beach. So I just wanted to go down and see what it was like to live on the beach area, in the beach area. So they were very upset that I was working in a second, pension retirement plan, which. And it's so interesting because I really didn't decide to pursue this complaint until literally the day before it was due to expire. I really did not want to file a complaint. I personally felt like
the statute of limitation run out. No, ma'am, we ain't. But let me tell you something, because this is what my spirit of intuition is telling me. You just got involved with some bougie, uppity, class women who have ran that position in that office. They all break bread together. They all drink together. They all tan together. And you just came down here and got in the way. That's what it sounds like.
Deb, I did not. I mean, I was bullied too. Like one of the bullies. She was slamming the door in my face. No,
you was Switzerland in that office. You didn't rock the boat, whatever they said, you went along with. Then all of a sudden, a stranger came into the office, and now you want to speak up. So you never had that, I'm going to push back on them because you'd have been gone a long time ago. So you was neutral, you was easy, and you they didn't figure you as a threat. Now, when you stepped into your authority and became the woman of God to protect someone else, is when you saw Satan show his face in these women. So y'all gonna get payback, but y'all just recognize that you was literally in the lion's den, and we call
absolutely. Yeah. I really believe I believe with all my heart that if I had stayed here, I would have definitely had a severe, a major health episode. I mean, I was
You
on the
would
brink.
not have.
It was
You would have laid
uncontrollable.
hands. You would have laid hands. One of these days, you and your mama said, if you ain't got nothing to say, don't say nothing at all. But sooner or later, one of these heifers would have pushed you back into a corner. And you would have came out swinging, okay? Because it was either your health, your job, your psyche, or your hands.
And I just decided just to walk away. But the reason why I filed the day before it was due to expire was that, I said, something, Patricia, you have a pension, you've done your 30 plus years, but you know what about that other little young African American, super smart young lady out there that's doing all the right things. She's checked all the right boxes. She's out here. She's in this same workforce, the same environment that you're in. How is she going to fight that fight? If something happens to her, what is she going to do? And I felt that it was incumbent upon me that, Patricia, you can't sit back all because, you finished your 30 years. There are a lot of folks that are behind you that need to know that you're strong, you're resilient, and you're going to fight. And you're going to bring it to the forefront. You're not going to let this go. Because my daughter is also in the federal government. She's an LCSW with VA. And she's going through, sometimes she goes through different things on the job. And I did it for her. And I did it for the other Black women behind me who are working in federal and corporate positions, who are going through that type of toxic environment, despite having all the check marks already checked off. You've already done those things, but you walk in there and you're qualified and you're Black.
And let these women know they hate a paper trail. Keep all documentation. Keep all videos. Keep all paperwork. Keep, even if you got them on recording, because one thing I learned working for the feds for 10 years, they hate a paper trail.
Oh, yeah. That's the first rule, Lucretia, is make sure you have a paper trail.
Because if it's not documented, it never happened, okay?
Right.
That's how the Army.
If it's not, our motto is this: if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Now you understand why your superior had to lie on you on paper and put it in your file, because there was no documentation of you being a troublemaker. So they had to put something in your record to show that you're a problem person. And that is what happened with your superiors.
Ms. Deb,
the thing that I find also troubling about Ms. Carnell's position was not only she terminated, based on that termination portion that she went through, but also she has a disability. I mean, because when you have a disability, a supervisor should be looking at, okay, what type of reasonable accommodation should I provide for this employee? What am I doing as a supervisor to make sure that I've done what I need to do for this person to be successful? Because when Deb was in a situation where she was conducting a briefing and she had to plug the little monitor into the TV portion, she basically said that she couldn't see it. Well, she has a vision problem. So she has a vision problem and she can't see how to plug it in. Then my question would be, what type of reasonable accommodation as a supervisor am I going to provide to help you be able to do that?
Right.
As opposed to talking about you don't know about technology. It was totally just kind of downplaying her disability and not providing a reasonable accommodation for her.
He was humiliating me, and he did it during a whole Teams meeting. He said it in front of all of my coworkers. You need to work on your technology skills.
Sound like ageism to me. Not only female discrimination, but also disability discrimination and ageism.
They would always say to me, like, and how many years do you work? Oh my gosh. Oh my, they were just, I got so sick and tired of them talking about how many years I worked for the government. It's like, can we get straight to the mission? And I think out of all of this, the biggest regret that I have, and Deb, you might want to speak to this, is when I left, I felt like the mission, like what I came there for, I felt like I had not achieved. And that was, I came there to provide services for sailors and families. And when I left, Deb, you want to talk about what you had noticed?
I mean, I bet I didn't want Patricia to leave. I wanted her to stay and let's fight this together. I said, don't give up. I mean, you got to stay. But I understand why she had to. It was making her literally physically sick. I was getting physically sick during that time too. But after Patricia left, sailors would come in and look for her. And one particular day, one of the sailors wallow out and said, "No, she can't be gone. I need her help." And that broke my heart. That, those guys connected with her, and she was the busiest person in that office. The sailors really come to look for her to get help.
Wait a minute. And now you coming out of a whole nother state to an office to be more efficient than everybody in there, and you didn't think you was going to have a bullseye on your back?
That's how it always goes. Come on, come on.
It was so funny. This is something that they would my coworkers they were so puzzled at this, because in the Navy, we have the dive school there, and the majority of the divers were white, and when they would come into the Fleet and Family Support Center where I worked at, they would come in there, and they would of course they would be most of the time young white sailors, and they would come in, they would look at me, and they would kind of look at me like, okay, so I need some help. And by the time they walked out of my office, that we would be laughing. I'm asking about the kids. We're talking. They're coming back to see me again. So what my motto was this, that they would come in as strangers, but they would leave as family. Because they had a lot of stressors in the military, a lot of things they were dealing with. And sometimes, by me having a master's in counseling, they just wanted somebody just to talk and connect with. And I loved doing that. I mean, I would seek them out. And
was she cute? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out where the jealousy came from. Was she cute? Was
Deb? So the troublemaker that sat in the front, she liked to stir the pot, and she was young, and she would dress provocative.
Oh, here we go. There's it.
That's it right there.
She liked it. She wanted the attention. Yeah. And the attention was not on her. There was no longer that spotlight position.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So that answers a lot of questions. And like I said, we've taken this case and we're supporting both of these ladies. We will be filing lawsuits for them to make them whole. But I wanted to do this and let them have an opportunity to let the world know what's going on. Discrimination has not left this country. It's prevalent in the federal government. And as you see, how this works out is that a Black woman's being discriminated against, and a co-worker who is white says she's telling the truth, and now both of them are out of a job. That right there, to me, has the world need to understand this. Until we as Americans see each other at the same place, even though you might not think that, then we will never see discrimination go away, because we're always going to have that one person who has some kind of ideas like this lady did to attack both of you. So the lady that you said that dressed provocative, she was sleeping with somebody for her to be able to come back into that office and trash your office. I'm just keeping it real.
Yep.
Well, Pastor David, I have to say, allegedly, I don't know, but there are a lot of different dynamics going on there. Allegedly,
she was.
Yeah.
Okay, you might not can gossip, but honey, my womanly instinct is normally on point. And it sounds like, you know what? She had a good thing going there for a while, and a real woman walked in the building and she was intimidated. So you just look at the accomplishments that you have already strived to do. Look at how you help the sailors and the Navy fellas have that familiarity of comfort and guidance. They're never going to forget you. They're just going to be paid.
I was like a mother to them. I really was a mother figure, to them. They would come there in their young 25-ish, come sit down with me, and their favorite name for me was, they would call me Miss Pat. They come in and they would ask for Miss Pat. Is Miss Pat here? And they come to my office, I close the door. I say, okay, so what's going on now? How you doing? How's the family? And they needed that because they were under so much pressure trying to get through the dive school. That's a very rigorous curriculum for them to get through that. Very prestigious. Lots of pressure. A lot of them don't make it. So they needed someone to talk to.
Because how much are you asking for? What is your goal? Because they're
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know what. It's funny you asked me that, because like for certain things, with me being a retiree, I'm here in Atlanta area, McDonough area.
Oh wow, you live right around the corner from me.
Yes,
and I live in Atlanta as well.
Yes. Oh, okay. I'm right here, McDonough.
And
And
Pastor live in Snellville, so and you need a car
Yep,
to go
yep.
anywhere. So
but see, here's the irony of all this. And you said about how much am I asking for? I'm paying for a $2,000 a month condo on the beach in Panama City. Don't even live there, which means that I entered into a 12-month lease to go to the job. So it has become it's also a financial thing, and because I'm really big about my credit, so I've just continued to pay it on time to get through this lease. But it was just like there are lots of other things that I had to do that contributed to the stress because I'm having to pay for two places, one that I don't even live in. So all these things happen because I came to a job.
I got a question. Another question. When's the last time you took a vacation?
Oh Lord, a vacation. What is
Go
it?
ahead and
We
get
were
a
talking
rum.
about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna need for you to go get a rum runner, and since you're paying for it anyway, you need to go ahead and get a little bit more tanner, okay? Because why you letting that to go waste? Why you letting that go to waste? You paying
I mean, I try to go down every once in a while, but it's just every time I go down there, to be honest with you, when I do go down there, it's almost like another PTSD event. I feel the stress of what I went through. So when I go down there, I go down for a couple of days, check my condo, make sure it's okay, get back in the car and head on back to McDonough. That's just how I am.
I hadn't had a vacation in a while. Not never mind.
Well,
but yeah, it was just and basically what I asked for initially was just to cover my expenses. But this
Patricia,
has been
you had to sell your car too.
Yeah.
You had to sacrifice, and we're both single women. We both of us, especially Patricia, it just breaks my heart, but we did not deserve this.
No,
Right.
you didn't.
It's unfair. I'm all about justice and what is right. And it doesn't matter if I lose my job. I'm going to stand up for what is right. My granddaughter is Black. And my heart hurts for her because I think about what is she going to go through in this life. So, I wouldn't change a thing. I'd still have Patricia's back because what was done was so mean and so unfair.
Right.
Well, and that's why, for me, when I heard the story, I felt some kind of way that she needed protection. Our women need protection, and they need that kind of support because had she been, it would have been a different situation had she was in a relationship. Because I think had a man been with her, they wouldn't have attacked her like that, especially to destroy the office and destroy all her medals. You know what I'm saying? These are psychological warfare tactics that have been used against these ladies. And so I really took offense to that. And that's why I jumped in and said, hey, you know what? Let's get the lawyer online so we can start talking and get the support that we need so we can.
I'm not trying to play devil's advocate, but they're never going to apologize. Oh, you're going to get paid, especially if you once you get the right to sue letter, they might drag it out for a couple of years and they're going to, pay you, but they're never going to apologize for everything.
And you know what? At the time, guys, I would have been happy at the time when this first happened, when they broke into my office, if someone had just come into my office and said, Patricia, you know what, is there anything that we can do for you? We're sorry this happened. I mean, it was just completely like it never happened.
Yeah.
We don't want to talk about it. It's just like, okay, so someone broke into our office. Okay, our next.
I mean, that's disturbing because, like I said, I worked at Grissom Air Force Base in the military medical support office. So we had highly sensitive information because we had all of the actual soldiers' information. And in your case, you had sailors' private information, like security number. I mean, it gets really intense. And I'm like, your office is open? Excuse me? Yes. Anybody's office and files are open. What are we doing? Like, that is a whole national security issue beyond just being a regular security issue because these people are deployed all over the world. And I don't think people realize how sensitive the information is.
Yes. Yes.
handbook, most of the stuff that we are all talking about is in the handbook as a big no-no. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to point back to the handbook, saying it's already in writing that this woman shouldn't have did it. It's just that they never pressed charges or there was nothing disciplinary that happened to her. And that's how they're going to play, all of them out of our hair right now. Let's just pay them and just sweep it back under the rug and then point back to the handbook, because sensitivity training it's already there.
Well, and what they're going to also say is that, when we had the investigation, we got rid of the problem. That person was forced to resign or whatever happened to her.
Yes.
But my thing is this: when that person who initiated all this left the organization, that still did not solve the problem. What should have happened after that was there should have been some type of training for the remaining staff.
Yes.
Right.
On what went on and how to preclude those type of things from happening in the future.
Right.
And none of that happened.
No, what happened was the XO came in and threatened us all and used the F word constantly to us and told us that we were old enough to be his mother and father. And it was ridiculous. And so
he was trying to cover the tracks of everybody. And once the door was open to that and they saw that they were so wrong, then he just like you said, they wanted to get rid of everybody and keep mashing on and just let it flow and fall wherever it is. So, but that's okay. When they
in retrospect, I ask myself this question all the time: what is it that I could have done differently? And I say to myself, if I had gone in there and I had not told them my dreams, if I had not said, hey, now the director's leaving, I would like to apply for this position. Maybe I just should have not have said what my dreams were. And I said, no, Patricia, again, what about that person, that young lady behind you who's coming into the federal workforce, who says, hey, look, guys, I'm qualified. I'm going to apply for this job.
Right.
So that's something that
and normally in work positions, women don't always talk about their dreams and stand up for themselves, right? Men do, and it's usually okay for men to do that. But when women do it, there is a backlash. That is something that I studied when I was in college, and I'm like, that's very sad, but it's very real.
Yes, it was definitely a backlash. I mean, I was just and my other coworker, Debbie, the other coworker would say, "Oh my gosh, she's just so qualified. She's had everybody's job," because I literally had everybody's job in the office. At some point in my 30-year career, I'd had everybody's job. So when something came up, I would say, they would say, "Hey, Patricia, I said, yeah, if you do X, Y, and Z, or you do it like this or whatever," I kept with the briefing, and that became another problem to the point where one time Deb was doing a training and she asked for help. She says, "Hey, Patricia, can you help me with this training? I need an icebreaker." I said, "Sure." On the fly, I came in and I did an icebreaker with her. Oh my God, Deb, do you want to talk about what happened when I volunteered to help you, a coworker, with the training? Oh my goodness. They basically she was called in by her supervisor and counseled on, why did you ask Patricia for help?
Because that's what you're supposed to do. But that's the other fear, right? Yes. Because you knew all the positions, you knew everything that people were supposed to be doing.
Yes.
So if they didn't do the right thing, they could be held accountable. Yes. Yeah. I like I said, I've been there.
Miss Deb, are you still there? Can you talk? Can you hear me?
I don't know if she can heir us, because I know my system kind of kicked me out.
Okay.
And then our system kicked us off on one of the pages too. So
that's normal. Okay. So let's move right along. We're gonna help both of these ladies. We're gonna file lawsuits for them. We're gonna make them whole with our attorney Anthony Parike out of Chicago. And we're gonna make sure that this doesn't happen again at this agency for anybody to follow. Now here's the fun part, y'all. Let's go. Here we go. All right. Over 300 Black women.
300,000.
Wow. That's a larger number.
300,000 Black women were laid off.
Wow.
Through the DEI program.
Okay.
So when President Trump came in, his mission was to end DEI.
Right.
And I want to say this. in certain cases, DEI was a detriment to workers. Because let's take a look at what DEI did. DEI allowed Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to hire a transportation secretary like Peter Buda that had no experience and nothing. And when it was that time he took the office, he was just there holding up, the stuff getting into the United States. He had no clue on what to do. DEI hires was the energy person, the guy that was gay, that was walking around with the dress on, stealing people luggage out of the airport. DEI has been a program associated with affirmative action, which I hated both of them, but I hated affirmative action because the 10% of the hiring of a minority, they created white women as a minority. So black people and black women never got those positions. And when they did hire one, that person was just a token to say that the program worked. Mm-hmm. So when affirmative action ended, DEI, they just changed the name and shift the money over here because during the time Joe Biden got in, let me take it back another step. When Barack Obama got into office, he created DEI because affirmative action was being thrown out. And when he created DEI, there were a lot of unqualified people. See, DEI was used all across the workforce everywhere. For teachers, whatever position that it was, DEI was made available so they could put a whole bunch of homosexuals into our schools. This is why Pastor don't like DEI. Because when you use a program like that, you do not get the best qualified person. You're meeting a requirement that has been set forth in this situation, and most of the time, the people that get these positions are not qualified for them. So DEI is a blessing and a curse, but it never benefited Black people or our Black sisters. So
well, it was a part of an ESG scoring system from the United Nations. So it was part of the scoring system. So if you wanted a higher ESG score, then you had more DEI hires because it contributed to your score, very much so like a credit score. So people would look at your ESG score and go, oh, okay, maybe we should give them lending and funding, or maybe we should help support them in other areas. So it was very nefarious the way it came about, and now it's really hurt and damaged people on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
Lucretia?
Can't take an easy way out. I was learning if you work hard, show your merit, you'll get places in life, not just because you're a Black chick. I did not earn it. That's DEI for me.
Okay. Now I want to play a clip, and I'm in the Tigers Den. I got all these beautiful women in here. So I'm gonna be careful. I'm gonna play a clip concerning DEI. I'm gonna play his first clip, and we're gonna discuss it. Hang on.
Back, well, there is a troubling shift in the American workforce that is hitting close to home.
According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 300,000 Black women have left their jobs over the past 3 months, and experts are calling it a silent crisis.
That's right. So 11 Alive's race, culture, and religion reporter Danielle Nottingham dug more into this report. Danielle, you spoke to women who are experiencing this loss. I mean, 300,000, that's a huge number. What are you learning?
The numbers are very, very shocking. And what I was learning about the women I spoke to today, is that they feel like this is another moment where Black women have gotten the short end of the stick. And just to look at some numbers, the national unemployment rate right now is 4.2%. For Black women, it's 6.8%.
I want to stop it right there for just a second. I'm returning. Don't you think that her dress is about to come off her behind sitting in that?
She should not be wearing a skirt that short. Like, what are we doing? Pants, ma'am. Pants. Always. If you're going to be in a high top chair at a desk where you're going to be seeing pants. That's all I got to say.
Oh, I'm going to put it back on. Go ahead.
So we've heard the numbers, and I think now it's time that we put a face to the crisis.
300,000 Black women gone in just 90 days. And behind the numbers are real people like Jamie Pleasant.
It is disturbing. It's beyond surprising. It's extremely disturbing. When people looked at the list, it was all people who look like me. It was pretty much, I won't say all of them, but it was predominant. The majority of us look like me.
Jamie worked at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and says her dismissal in May wasn't just unexpected, it felt targeted.
You want to believe in this day and age that things like that are still not going on, that we are targeted, given the impact that we make, given what we bring to the table, given our education, given our expertise, given our commitment to the roles. But at the end of the day, if it has to be me and Sally, it's Sally.
Allison Todd tells a similar story. She was let go from the United Way in June after 10 years. Another highly qualified professional suddenly without a job.
We have a bright light. Most of us have double degree, advanced degree. I have my graduate degree. We have experience beyond experience.
Experts say the mass exit is driven in part by budget cuts in the federal and public sectors and the dismantling of DEI programs where Black women historically have held positions.
A Black woman is resilient, no matter what she's been through. As a Black woman, you have to be. And what I found was a lot of us were managing up. Is that what it is when you manage the people who are in charge of you? Sharing information with them, onboarding them so that they could successfully let us go.
Allison is now turning to entrepreneurship, helping business owners build their own companies. And Jamie is returning to the job market, optimistic for her future.
I just want to encourage those out there in my same situation to, don't give up hope. There's still a need for us. Just wake up with a purpose every day of knowing that you bring value.
And it's also worth noting that Jamie graduated from Clark Atlanta University and has a master's in public health with epidemiology as her specialty. So we're talking about very qualified, very educated women who are finding themselves on the sidelines when it comes to employment.
Yeah, and especially after spending much time and so many years in those fields, either you have to pivot or if it's specialized, where do you go? So it does create quite a quandary.
Yeah, one of the things Allison said that did not make this piece is that, when we have a birthday in the office, they give you a cupcake, they cheer you on. And she was like, my last day, everyone was just distant. It was like I didn't even exist.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we are certainly hoping that these women land back on their feet, even in better positions than they were before.
Yeah,
So we're speaking
definitely.
for them. Danielle, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
All right, ladies, Lucretia, you up first.
Why you gonna throw me under the bus? I don't agree with that crap. I don't agree with any of that. I'm sorry. Listen, Linda out there. Y'all, me sitting back here doing a show on a nightly basis, all I heard is them shouting and parading DEI when it was the downfall from the beginning. Nobody read the fine print of what they was actually trying to accomplish, and it wasn't for the Black race. But somehow those was the loudest cheerleaders was Black women, and they were the first one on the chopping block. When we sit back and talk about this, that it's a detriment. It's a damn detriment. Now, hindsight's 2020. I don't understand it. Why are you complaining now when you was out there on the front line shouting for everybody else but your dang old selves? And now that you see it that came into fruition, what are we supposed to sit back here and do? Just get, like Joe Biden said, learn the code. He done threw everybody else under the damn bus out here in the real world, America. And now that you have to wake up and realize this stuff ain't handed to you and you really got to scrub and scrape and you thought you was going to die there? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, sirs. This is another affirmative action that flipped around and gave a bunch of pedophiles, a bunch of confused ass people, higher positions than real women that went out there and busted their tails all their life. But the real women were shouting for fake men. I ain't getting it. And now that these fake men and these fake people and came in and stepped on their toes and they're younger than them, they trying to figure out what happened. You rooted for the wrong people. There, that's where that stop asking me because I'm gonna tell you straight, and I probably hurt somebody's feeling, but damn it, why are you rooting for somebody else when you should be rooting for the just cause and the foundation of your own community?
Yeah,
So
and it's truly sad, and it's what you're saying. And the organization CDC, it was on its way out as well as the United Way, because unfortunately the CDC has been compromised. It was compromised a long time ago, but it was a failing organization because it stopped being accountable to the federal government. And that was from the HHS down, dealing with the FDA, dealing with a lot of what's going on now. And so it's unfortunate that this many jobs have been lost, but it is a cautionary tale. You cannot just rely on any job nor the government,
And
right?
guess
We
what?
are
Right
living
now,
in an economy where you have to be self-reliant,
they
period.
finna slice and dice more professional jobs at the federal level because it
Yes.
got loaded so fast. So when all these
Mhm.
people out here start looking for positions of power and realize they don't have it, it is not our fault anymore.
Miss Patricia, your thoughts?
Okay. Again, having worked for them for a few decades,
Yeah.
I really kind of feel like, Black women, I believe, are number 4 in terms of getting benefits from DEI. The ones who are getting the most benefits from DEI are white women. But when you think about DEI, we automatically kind of think about Black folks benefiting from that. Now, Black women are the highest demographic of those who are losing their jobs. The highest demographic of those who are getting jobs are white men.
Yeah.
So Black women are losing jobs and white men are gaining jobs. So I want to just to kind of be clear on that
And most of
fact.
those white men wear dresses, they wear wigs, and they go in women's bathroom
Yes.
because you
Yes,
have
yes,
to check off
and
boxes.
at a lot of times, I remember in my career, walking into back in those days, walking into, if you were GS, even 11, 12, 13, everybody was a white male, so you're walking in there and you've got to look at who's making the decision. If you've got 10 people on the table and you've got you've got to cut some people there. You've got this mandate from the president that says you got to let so many positions go. All right, you're the one. You're in that position of power. You're that manager. You're that 15. That SES. Who are you going to cut? Are you going to cut the person that you play golf with on the weekends?
Right.
Are you gonna look at Patricia, who Patricia's a good person. She does a great job, but I got to cut somebody. So you know what? And I want to play golf with Jim on this weekend at the country club. So let me go head on and I'm going to cut Patricia. So
Or
Yeah,
my
and it's
concern is
sad, but
my
those are
concern is
facts.
how are we vetting this process? Who's making this decision?
uh,
It's not just about, and at this whole DEI thing, it's not just about Black women. Who's
no,
making the decision about how they're being cut?
it's a qualification. Are you gay? Are you a them? Are you a they? Are
A
you a
pronoun.
furry? Are you transgendered? Because during the whole of the DEI, those are the ones that went Geronima man.
Yes.
So he just told you about Pete Hegseth. He put on a fake boob bra saying that I'm feeding my newborn babies because I decided to be the woman of the situation. You got somebody up there in the Navy that legs spread out like this, knowing that's a straight up man, but y'all need to salute him as a woman. Right there, it allowed to happen within the last 10 years. This is what has happened. This is the consequences of stepping out of the grander order of what we are as a constitutional republic, and you let the inmates run the asylum, and now everybody mad because stuff is out of shape. And I'm sitting here like, we told you so.
Miss
We told
Deb, your
And the
thoughts?
other thing too is that Black women also have the highest demographic of those who have advanced degrees. So Black women, I think, are trying their best to
Yeah.
hit the check marks and make sure that we're qualified and we meet all these things. So it's just kind of like, I have an example of, when my daughter went to University of Georgia years ago, she went there and one time they were having this affirmative action rally, and they were saying, hey, when she was walking by, hey, it's people like her that we need to keep out of University of Georgia because, she got in here on affirmative action. Well, my daughter was a National Merit Scholar,
Wow.
so that
And it's
wasn't how
hurtful.
she ended up at University of Georgia with a
very
couple
hurtful.
degrees.
But this is
But that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about for those of us who are qualified, who've made those sacrifices, gotten the right kind of education and check
Right.
marks and experience. Those are the people I'm concerned about because those are the people that look like me who are not sitting at the table when the decisions are made about who's going to be let go.
Right.
Miss Deb, you want to throw something in there?
Yeah, I'll throw something in here. It just proves that our work is not done.
That's right.
This world is out of balance, and we need to fight for what's right. And what God created, He created. So we need to go back to the basics and realize that we are all equal. But when it comes to a job, they need to look at who's most qualified to get this job done.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know
We
what?
don't need to look at color,
I
sex,
want to apologize
age.
to y'all's too. I want to, it's not easy working 30, 40 years. And we know how we was raised. At the end of that, it's the white picket fence, it's the pension, it's everything, not drama, not heartache and pain. So I apologize because Sally Sunrises decided to hate on y'all and destroy y'all lives. And now the powers that be just want to clear their own conscience and make y'all go away. And that is not right on no matter what spectrum you on.
Well, you know, we have to hold those accountable who put us in this situation. There was two things that I said about this. I detest DEI because the most qualified person aren't given the positions that they deserve because of all of the experience they have. And then you put somebody in the position like Barack Obama did. See, when he created the DEI thing, it was not for even the white women. It was for the homosexuals.
Yeah.
Those group of programs were put into the school system. We saw here in Chicago, and I'm working with these Black teachers. I've been working with them for over a year now. When Barack Obama created the DEI, they got rid of all the Black teachers that was teaching the children phonics to get the scores up so for the state and all like that. They turned around and fired all of those Black teachers, put them on a do not hire list in Chicago where they can't get jobs, but then they filled those positions with homosexuals and lesbians and all those people who were not even qualified. And that's how we got this whole LGBT thing in our schools teaching our children, and the children can't even read or write, but they can tell you who a pedophile is. They can tell you if they want to be transgender. Y'all seen it. It happened under the Biden administration. It was part of what Barack Obama did because he laid the foundation for these people to be put in those positions. And once Biden got in, they pushed it out on everybody. And this is what we got, and this is what we see. But it did something bad for the Black community because the Black community has been continuously under attack. First, Lucretia, like the other day, you said Black men were taken out back in the 60s, right? Thus, it pushed our Black women to stand and be the firm one in the families to try to feed the kids and so forth. But then the feminism from that put our women at a different place where they was walking around talking about, I don't need no man. I got my job. I got my money. I don't need no man. And thus that separated the Black family. And so now the position that we're in is this. This move hurt a lot of Black families.
Yes.
Those women were breadwinners. I'll give you a moment. Those women were breadwinners no matter what. But the sad thing of it is that I was a previous contracting officer for the federal government. And when I left the federal government, they started saying as long as you got a college degree, you can get a six-figure salary. And we had a lot of people who had college degrees in dog catching, liberal arts, things that didn't require a lot just to get a piece of paper. As long as you had that paper with no experience on doing nothing, you could get a job in the federal government. And now that's the telltale sign because just like this lady and Miss Patricia K, she had no clue on how EEOC operated, but she was there in the job, in the capacity of doing what she was told by the leaders just to keep their job. Mm-hmm. So that's my thing on that. I want to play a clip and I want to get your thoughts on this and then we'll talk about that.
How you doing this is Adam Post. Black women are losing jobs at an alarming rate. And they're not losing jobs because of discrimination. Well, not on the way out. They're losing jobs because of discrimination on the way in. DEI hiring has multiple victims. The people that should have been given an opportunity, as well as the people who were hired that may not have been qualified. Well, let's just say this. Looks like they were not qualified. I got this story from a tweet from Benjamin Crump. Benjamin Crump, who is a civil rights lawyer, and he gets involved with a lot of media cases where he claims racism. Here's a tweet he put out. Black women lost 38,000 jobs in April, the most of any group. Economists say this sharp rise is tied to the administration's anti-DEI agenda. Black women are sadly paying the price. This is more than just a policy. It's harm. When he says this is harm, he's saying this is like an actionable lawsuit somehow. He's trying to dream up, how could I have a class action lawsuit on behalf of all black women and sue everyone in the world, or at least the federal government, saying you're firing them because they're black women. Look at this disparate impact. It doesn't work that way. If it did work that way, he'd have his lawsuit. Here's the article he was referencing, and this is from Afrotech, and I have covered things from Afrotech before. There's a whole subculture of, we're not just going to give you news, we're going to give you news and information from a DEI point of view. That's Afrotech. That's Essence. That's articles like this from Refinery 29. Black women are leaving journalism, and it's a huge loss. And it makes sense to have some kind of cultural point of view in a specific niche, but when it comes to law, when it comes to fairness in the workplace, it really doesn't have a place. And I do want to say these numbers are correct. Black women are losing jobs at an alarming rate. It's numbers that are coming from the government, but they're not being targeted or singled out because they're black women. Not on the way out, but they might have been on the way in given opportunities that they weren't qualified for. From Bloomberg, U.S. black women see jobless rates surge, and it's a year-long trend. And I understand there's diversity, equity, and inclusion hiring. I have done like more than 100 woke shutdown videos. I've done several on DEI and diversity hiring. I do have some knowledge on this, but I had to do a little more research to kind of get a better background and understand what exactly are they talking about. Is there some kind of a stealth program going on for reparations that the general public was unaware of? I mean, we were hearing about DEI hiring and DEI related lawsuits and diversity, equity, and inclusion. We understand that's in the public eye. But was there something going on behind the scenes that the general public like never voted for, but some people in power decided, you know what, let's do reparations? They may have actually done that. This is from NBC News. Much of the black middle class was built by federal jobs. That may change. For the last several decades, federal jobs help black workers find stable work with guardrails to prevent bias, but mass cuts are threatening decades of upward mobility. Was the federal government running a jobs program as stealth reparations to give opportunities to people of certain specific skin colors and just them? The Griot is another one of these DEI cultured websites. They say this: Trump's elimination of federal employees could shrink the black middle class. Black federal workers find themselves being disproportionately targeted through a combination of DEI cuts, employee buyouts, and layoffs executed by the Trump administration.
Now, folks, I want to get y'all thoughts on this. Who's up first?
Well, here's the thing. It backfired in a bad way. Mm-hmm. It just did. But what's disheartening about DEI, it's the assumption, it's the prejudice that it's created, because the minute you walk through the door, like I have a doctorate degree and I've, applied for positions and I've blatantly been told you're overqualified for this. Yeah. You're bored at this job. You worked at places like Warner Brothers and Turner Broadcasting. You're going to be bored here. But why would I apply if I know I'm qualified for the job? But it's the prejudice on the way in for me that DEI has created that is horrible.
Yes.
Doc, you are Lucretia.
Anything with Crump or Essence, I immediately stop listening. Essence already wrote me up. He kissed my natural word Patuki for that one, and Crump, the new race pimp of the 80s. I don't care about that because he's doing more damage than good to the black community. So my grandkids are biracial. My grandmother and grandfather was the first interracial couple in the state of in Jackson, Georgia, which is commerce area. I ain't getting down with that crap no more. Either it's about God, family, and how we can rebuild our country. We got enough race pimps out there that ain't doing nothing but continue to bring in that gulf that is wider and wider, and we'll never come together. So I don't deal with those type of people. I'm trying to make it to heaven, and heaven ain't gonna be segregated.
And to bounce off what you all are saying, Black women are getting these jobs again because of the education piece. A lot of them are very qualified. They're the demographic that have the highest number of advanced degrees. So of course, if you're looking at qualifications, you would certainly you couldn't overlook the Black woman getting an entry into the workplace.
Right.
And my concern, I know, talking about the Washington D.C. area, where a lot of those federal workers have lost their jobs. You're also looking at a high foreclosure rate for Black households, because those women are also holding down households. So you're looking at the whole foundation of the Black family in those particular areas who are head of households, because the majority of Black households are headed by Black women. So now these jobs are gone. You got a high foreclosure rate. Your foundation is gone. So it's going to be interesting to see what type of impact that's going to have on our future as we move forward. But I want to be clear: these DEI hires, maybe they were hired because they have the highest number of graduate degrees and higher level education to be sitting in those positions in the first place.
Well,
Right, but
go ahead, Ms. Deb.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of you that have spoke. It takes me back when Patricia was hired. Our supervisor, our manager, said she's coming on board. She has the credentials to take my job, which she was the manager. She took a lesser job. Well, why does that matter? She can apply for whatever she wants. But she did hire her. But when Patricia wanted that position, majority of the white ladies in there had a fit. So there is a racial content there. Yes, I agree that we are all created equally, but we're still in this crazy mess of, hey guys, let's just accept who we are and let's give that position to somebody that can do it.
right.
Well, Deb, when you said that I know that our supervisor said, she's very qualified. She can take my job. She can do my job.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that kind of set the
It set the
tone for the
tone.
whole,
It sure
Right.
did. It
Right.
sure did
Exactly.
But
with some of
guys, for me, I believe in the best qualified persons get the job.
yes.
I don't
Absolutely.
believe in a handicap, because there's ways to misuse that handicap.
Yeah.
And that's the purpose of DEI, was to replace experienced workers and put inexperienced workers in position. That was part of Barack Obama's plan to put the homosexuals into the workplace so that they can control things. But it still backfired for Black folks, because a lot of Black folks did come into those programs and got those federal jobs who are not experienced or who was not the best candidate. So the discrimination occurred, just like he said, coming into this, because you took somebody that was really experienced, who qualified for the job, and you cast them out, and you put somebody in that had very little experience only because of the DEI said that we need these type of person in place.
All right, Pastor Laura, I just have to say this. Again, I kind of grew up in the federal government system, and I have to say that like a lot of the GS 12s and 13s and above in the federal government, say white males, a lot of them would basically have a high school diploma, and that was sufficient enough for them to get in those positions back in the 80s, so to speak.
Yes.
A lot of them had high school diplomas. Now, throughout those 3 decades that I worked, very rarely, I'm trying to think, was there ever a time that I met a Black woman that had that type of position who had a high school diploma?
You didn't.
We sat across the table from men that had high school diplomas who were our supervisors. So
Right.
now those particular that demographic, now a lot of them are retiring, because they're in my age group now, so they're retiring. So now those positions some of those positions are going to be replaced. So now we're looking at, so who's going to replace that workforce of people that had those high school diplomas that are now exiting the federal government? Because we're getting rid of the Black women that have the graduate degree. So we got to replace them with somebody. Now you have this demographic of white males who are replacing now the fastest rising group to replace everybody that's leaving the government. So they're benefiting from that. So I just want to just kind of look at that counterpoint that,
Yes.
there's a whole, back in the day, the people in those high graded positions in the federal government did
Right.
not look like Black women.
No.
That's something that just came about maybe I'd say a couple of decades, but it wasn't that way. It didn't start out that way. So we're kind of.
It was like probably the mid 90s, because that's
Yes,
when
that was in the
that was
mid
the
90s.
push.
Exactly. That's what I was going to. Mid 90s, it started to shift.
Yeah.
And so now you've got those guys are retiring. Now it's time for some of those people to start retiring. Those ladies that got in the mid 90s, they're getting close to retirement or wanting to retire. So you know what? Why don't we just go ahead on and force them out, get rid of them, and bring in a new demographic to replace them?
Yes, ladies, and I want to play another before we get out of here because we're getting close to the time. But I wanted to play this and get your thoughts on it.
Real F around and find out moment is here. A lot of people are looking at the Black community thinking that we are the recipients and benefactors of DEI programs and affirmative action programs. And I know affirmative action is no longer, but whenever they hear the term DEI or they hear the term affirmative action, they look to the Black community thinking that we are the benefactor. Now, here's some information for you. The number one recipient of DEI are white women.
Yes.
That is according to the U.S. Department of Labor. And others fall under that group, under the minority group, the ethnic minority. Number one recipient under that group are Latino and Hispanic Americans. Number two are Asian Americans. Number three are Native Americans. Number four, individuals with disability. Number five, veterans. Okay? And number six, the LGBTQ plus community. And guess who comes last at receiving DEI benefits? Guess who comes last? That's right. Black Americans. Black people. Let me also say, you can do a Google search and you will see the primary benefactors of DEI programs are not only white women, but white men, white male CEOs. Those are the ones who have benefited the most from DEI initiative programs.
Wow.
Ladies, your thoughts.
Wow.
Who want to be first?
Well, and it's true, you know, like Gavin Newsom said, if it's true, it's true. And it is. And it's unfortunate. But again, they created this caste system for all of us. Mm-hmm. And they need to get rid of it, and they just need to call it what it is and get back to a merit-based system. If it's going to be merit-based, then it's going to be merit-based. And if there's a predominantly, you know, part of the population that has these degrees that you say that we needed to go get to qualify for these positions, then those should be the people that get the positions, period.
Lucretia?
We the people told you so. I shouted this out when they was parading all these sisters across the screen. I said, you know, that ain't gonna happen, right? You know, that's not gonna happen. They sitting here with the, wanting a whole new voting block. Workers, they're gonna open up the gates. John Podesta sat there and told you, don't worry about the Black community. We'll give them $20 more in the welfare program. And let's go ahead and have a taco bowl. Hispanics first, open up the floodgates. So that wouldn't call open up the border. Asians, yeah, they get the visas, honey. They get the visas and the high paying jobs. Then we have Native Americans. Well, you know, the Trail of Tears, they got to get their reparations from somewhere. Then you got the disabled people who should have been first, right up there with the veterans. And then way down here with the loudest voices that it's going to help our community is always the last people to get served. Isn't this, I mean, Malcolm X kind of told you in the 70s, but it don't seem like nobody was paying attention.
Miss Patricia.
Progressives are the worst thing to happen.
Well, I just think that it was a drop the mic moment. What she said. I mean, I concur with everything that she said. I mean, it's we're the last to receive, and my concern is, who's benefiting, and she basically said that it's white males are benefiting from this DEI.
Miss Deb, your thoughts?
David, honestly did not know all of that. I guess I'm just in the dark with it, but I did not know. I didn't know it was layering down like that.
Well, kind of you did, because you have a great spirit and you have a great aura about you, and you stepped in a person's life because you knew it was wrong. So you knew.
I know right from wrong, definitely.
So it was in here, and you stepped out on faith is exactly what you did.
I did. And it's just, how are we going to change this, guys? Get the word out there. We're going to have to scream it from the mountaintop. We've got to change.
You're going to do what you're doing right now, what God commands you to do, and you're going to get out there and you're going to witness in his name. And you're going to build your community, and you're going to teach your offsprings, and they're going to teach their friends, and their friends going to teach their friends. And this is how we do it. We, the grassroots, everyday ordinary people, going to have to start back banding together and stop allowing this caste system. It ain't, it's a caste system. Either you got money or you don't. You either got power or you don't. Either you play golf or play tennis or you don't. If not, then you're going to struggle just like the poor whites, poor blacks, poor Hispanic, poor all of us. It's how much money you got in your pocket is how much you're going to advance in life.
Right. It's speaking of that caste system, there's a book by Isabel Wilkerson called it talks about the caste system. And there's definitely a caste system there. So what Deb and I are going to do, we were talking about this last night. We want to start some type of organization where we can help others in the federal workplace and corporate to kind of help them in terms of how do you deal with some of the things that we're going through, because we're not the only ones. I mean, there's thousands of Patricias and Debs out there. So it's just kind of like, so we need to really think about how to move this agenda forward to reach out to others that are going through.
It's beautiful because out of adversity comes innovation.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And no offense with y'all talking about it. It seemed like God already prepared you for all of the knowledge and wisdom and experience to go ahead and start your own, 501c3. So I think y'all already got the basis, and now you're just going to fund it and found it. And it's
Yes. But I ask myself all the time, Lord, why did you bring me to Panama City Beach, Florida? What was, I mean, I came there to do a job, and it just turned into this big whirlwind. What are we doing? Why did you bring me down here?
Patricia, good things come out of trials.
That's right.
God can use this to do amazing things with you. And we can change this world if we can get together and just be honest and have faith. We can move mountains.
When you're on one accord. Now, ladies, when you're getting something powerful started, make sure there's no Liliths in your crowd.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so, folks, in saying that, I really appreciate everybody's time. Lucretia, Doc, Miss Deb, Miss Patricia. We're going to fight, and we're going to get justice for you guys. We're going to try to make sure that you be made whole. But I wanted the American people and patriots across this country to see exactly how our women feel about different situations. And this panel has been great, just as good as the one that we normally have for other shows. And we need to keep this going. We need to keep informing families and American citizens about what's going on the inside, so that we can get justice. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Miss Patricia.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Deb. Ladies, those are some strong women right there. They're going through a lot right now. They lost their jobs, man.
They're going to have a powerful voice. So they start her 401c3, 501c3, whatever of compensation she's about to get, she can use half of it in the foundation of her ministry. That's what we're gonna call this, her ministry.
Yep.
And she's gonna use that money to help other people. So I think they already know. Y'all, I said y'all too. Y'all just help them foundation going.
And I want to because I was thinking about this show. I said, man, I'm gonna have all ladies on the show. So, but we want to keep it up because I want to start talking about, social issues. I want you guys to think about how we need to start bringing the family back together.
Yeah.
That's the mission for the Black folks. Your last words, Lucretia?
Honey, please. My grandma said, now we know why in soul food that the one with the most money was the one that was always hated. Now we see why she got her attitude. Sometimes family just use you. Can we be the family that we are growing and making ourselves? Because some people, and that's actually blood kills you quick.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and have our family and build our family with the love and the foundation that we're establishing. Because if we drop them now and we don't have them in our business, there's a reason God didn't allow us to bring them into this journey. So right now, God is bringing this foundation of our family together. Let's not bring some people that we should have cut off a long time ago.
Love you, Queen. We'll be talking
Absolutely.
soon, okay? Doc, your last words.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here today. And, definitely check out the USA Redemption Party at usaredemptionparty.com. We are looking for candidates to be servants of the people. And also, we're looking for members of the party. So definitely check us out at usaredemptionparty.com.
Thank you, Doc. And welcome back. Have a great weekend, and we'll be talking. Folks, I want to thank you for tuning into the show. This was a great informative show, and that's what we're doing here with our station. Our new call numbers, letters for our new station is letthetruthbetold.lightcast.com. You can go there and watch tonight's show. You can also watch other shows, and this is about education. The Living and Driving While Black Foundation and the Let the Truth Be Told networks are going to put information out there that you can take a look at and that you can learn from and that you can see all the things that need to be seen so that we can make this country great again. God bless you. Have a great weekend. It started this Thursday.